Hello folks. Well, we have some rather interesting data coming out of the Manchester Evening News today, where the state or councillor Bev Craig says there are going to be health and wellbeing checks across Manchester offices starting Monday the 22nd for the bug. Okay, now they use the term adult health and well-being, and of course we know full well that the term adulterer in the Ten Commandments is specific to a adult, or a adult is a shortened version of adulterer, one who corrupts or one who is corrupted and one who corrupts. Okay, so there we go, they've started a new game as the lockdown starts to ease, which I thought was rather interesting. If you're working in Manchester, you need to be aware of this. It's aimed at an adult. So are you an adult? Are you an adulterer? Or are you man? Either male or female, okay? So you reckon with that in Manchester as these numpties from the health and safety, from the council executive in Manchester, start to intrude upon your flesh and blood. Now, we are today the spring equinox. Okay, so we are now at a point where day and night are even once again. So, and of course from this point on, the day increases and the night comes shorter. So that's basically the equinox, okay? And we are at the spring equinox today, and that was this morning. So all these videos that I've gone through so far this last year have been specifically aimed at Freemasonry, aimed at the Jesuits and the knightly orders of whatever religious division you consider yourself. We've gone through, I don't think I might have gone through it on the videos, but I've certainly written about it on the reports, how the Muslims have been dragged in to this through the Order of the Mystic Shrine. So that said, we've also discussed the police, the politicians and the councillors as bodies involved in our day-to-day services. Okay, now I think they have forgot services, as we've established on many an occasion, so we don't need to get bogged down again in that. But what I will say is this now, we are on the equinox, which means we are entering the summer, the spring, the summer. That's where we go, with another year ahead of us. So, regardless of what organisation you are in, whether it's a fraternity, i.e. a secret society, or indeed a department of our state, so police, councillors, fire, etc. I think what you need to really come to terms with now, as man, be you male or female, is the fact that all institutions, organisations, fraternities are infected. Okay, they are infected by the mind of the unclean. And this mind of the unclean, as an infection, is pulling you ever further down to its level of unclean. Now, you may be wondering and pondering the fact, well, I'm okay, Jack, who cares? Well, fine, but you need to reckon with the fact that, you are losing your spiritual self, your spiritual identity, as you further allow this infection to pull you down to the level of the anti-life system that's being pushed in, readiness for a king. Okay, so when you start to look at such as The Lord of the Rings, and remember, J.R. Tolkien was educated at Stonyhurst. Okay, so what they have done is take our esotericism and turned it asunder to have you ready for the return of a king. Okay, you've got to see it in these terms. The great films and they're loaded with esoteric knowledge, but it's the divertive side, the king, return of the king. What's that all about? Do we need any kings? No, we don't need any such thing. And Samuel in the Bible gives you a bit of an insight as to why you don't need kings. And the Bible in general is very poignant in relation to encouraging not to be taking oaths of any kind to anything man-made. But it basically says don't take oaths of any description. So not just to the laws of man. So as we can see now, this infection exists, and it exists in all organisations, fraternities and departments of our state. And if you're watching the television or you're listening to the radios, the infection is pumping itself out there from every orifice into your minds, which then pulls your soul down to the level of a creature, okay, an animal. And of course then you are going to be governed by nature, if we go from Cicero's breakdown of reason, experience and nature. So there you go. Interesting times we are entering now. So instead of trying to, present each fraternity on its individual self, which of course upsets those that are members of it, well, that's tough. If you haven't come to grasp the fact that your entire fraternity, your organisation, is pulling you contrary to civility, contrary to morality, using money as the pull, then you are already in quite a mess, as it stands right now, So we need to look at it in those terms. It's the infection of the unclean, the hell realms, whatever way you want to call it. I use the term Quilopoth. The Quilopothic realms are opening and they are seeking out witless, hapless, immoral versions of man, or human, the shade of man. And of course now with the masks on and the nonsense that's going on, you're now at the point of Golem. You're not speaking when you're out there anymore. He's all walking around and you're not talking. That is the Golem. You need to reckon with that, because that is where the infection has spiraled you down to over this last 12 months and more. So that's how I'm going to begin this video, and hopefully that's a message as we pass this quarter in readiness so you can check yourself. Do you want to carry on with this nonsense? Are you going to allow this infection to pull you down to its own level of absolute absurdity? Or are you going to reckon with the fact that you are man, male, female, and you need to start to reckon that with yourself and pull yourself back up on the spiral? There are those in the centre on the merry-go-round, neither doing good nor bad, but doing nothing to enhance this existence for their own children, for their own grandchildren, for themselves now, in the here and now, and of course for the family, your family. So you're neither going down on the spiral to learn, or you're neither emphasising our experience by moving up on the spiral and thus giving out something that's beneficial. You need to jump off the merry-go-round now. Off you come and make a decision one way or the other as to where you're going to be a year from now, spiritually, physically. You need to be what you were born to be, which is a thinking I'd say you are at the level of human being, and you quite readily and happily accept that. But what kind of a human being are you? Are you going to take that further down and continue to be the Golem, or are you going to stop and start to raise yourself up back to the position of man? So there is my Equinox quarter message to all who have followed this channel so far. But now what I want to do is let's get back into some good stuff for all you out there who have followed the law in relation to understanding the difference between law and legal, and of course would like some more grammar, some more goodies in relation to what the future may bring, if you so choose to keep keeping your autonomy, as these fruitcakes and fruit bats keep attacking you with this nonsense idea that they're servicing law. Well, they are. They're servicing administration law against person. So what I have is a set of protocols that I have put together since the beginning of this year, as we move in relation to this nonsense that has been set against me by the police. So I've put a list of protocols as I find them as I move forward with this, and I know that it would be very, very interesting for you to see and maybe take notes, or maybe just take notes after the video. It's entirely up to you. But these are personal notes that I've taken in this last almost 3.5 months now, as I change the way I operate in relation to me being man, remaining autonomous, sovereign if you like, not a sovereign citizen. Of course, citizen is a slave. You know, if you're a citizen, you're a slave of the slave, because the state is a slave to man. So you've got to understand that. So never use the term sovereign citizen, never accept the label. Never accept the label free man either. You know, these are legal titles, and you don't want to be accepting of them unless you are studying English common law, in which case you are a citizen or a member of the public, which, as long as you're aware of them and you understand it, then you can use it against this nonsense, because it gives you the rights to do so. So we'll go through now the list of protocols that I have put together in this last 3.5 months, which will benefit you immensely if you want to keep on keeping your autonomy. Okay, so that's what we'll do now. Okay, so these are interesting concepts, and the concepts that we've looked up, we've studied, and they're from various personages that you're probably aware of, such as Bill Turner, Bill Thornton, these people. So, but it's, you know, it's a lot bigger than that. But if you're looking for personages who have helped in this regard, those are definitely 2 people you might want to keep a check on. Now, the rest of them are obviously just things I'm accumulating as I change my language, as I change my understanding and relationship to the state in general. And so this is an interesting definition of property. It says, the Holy Grail of law is always in the custody of the law. Property is a peculiar right. Now, you can use the term special also, which is another word that's accepted in the courts. A peculiar right to lands and chattels to the exclusion of all others. So this is property. It is the sole and despotic dominion which a man exercises over the things of the world, to the exclusion of the right of any other individual. To own property means that you have the exclusive possession, use, control, management and disposal of the thing, to the excision of all others. It is a peculiar right, or a special right. Now, in this definition, he uses the term world. Now, let's understand something at this juncture. The world is a construct, and the world is governed by Satan. That's the biblical. Okay. God commands his creation we call the earth. Okay, you have to see the distinction. Earth is God. The world is a construct, and it is a construct given to Satan. Okay, so if you want to be in the world, make sure you understand what you're defining. These are the things that have been lost to you through mind control, through bad education, or more correctly, programming, to keep you on person. Okay, person owns nothing. Man owns everything he owns. Okay. So he defines peculiar. It says one's own, exclusively yours. No other man can tell you what to do with what is yours. This is the foundation of all law. Who owns it? If you own something, you have the exclusive right to regulate it. Usury. Now, this is an interesting definition that I've come across. I may need a little more investigation. But it says usury. A borrower is always a servant to the lender. So this is your licenses. Okay, so let's look at it this way. In law, which is taken from the biblical, you have a right to use your property on the highway. Now, at some point, what was lawful became illegal. Okay, so in relation to the highway, it became illegal to use the highway. But of course, you've not been paying attention to the changes in the words used. So all of a sudden they invent this. It's illegal to use the road with a car or a vehicle without a license. So in essence, what is lawful becomes illegal, and in order to become lawful or legal, you have to get a license. So it's a license to then break an administration law. When you get the license, you're free to break that law. You might take a bit of pondering that. Just reckon with that bit of grammar there to grasp its meaning. So a borrower is always a servant to the lender. So whoever is issuing the licenses, and this is in all licenses, is classed as a lender. And you will be a borrower and servant to the borrower. Okay. And the borrower is always a user. Okay, so you have a license, you're using the license. And using what is not yours requires you to take interest in what is not yours. So the state's made a claim of right, and you have to take an interest in their claim if you want to use what isn't yours because they've made a claim that it's theirs. So the Vicar of Christ is the uber expression of that claim of right. The Vicar of Christ has claimed the whole world. Not the earth, the whole world, the construct. Are you getting this? So if you do not own anything, then anything you have must have come from the trust of the owner, or you stole it from the owner. You get me? So if you're a person and you don't have a license, you've stolen your right to the road for your car, for your vehicle, because you didn't get a license. Okay? Give that some thought. And that's the way usury can be looked at. Now, it's very interesting that, and does suggest a deeper insight if you're trying to grasp that kind of grammar. Interesting stuff. Now, evidence and such is quite important, because if you're a man, then another man has to show himself with the claim, swear an oath to make the claim against you. The legal system doesn't work like that. The state makes a claim, or some department of it, and then they use a prosecutor. Then you are into hearsay. So everything that the prosecutor may say is classed as hearsay. It's a statement other than the one made by the declarant while testifying at a trial or hearing, offered in evidence to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So it's hearsay in relation to what evidence is, if you're defining evidence, which I think I will do a video on at some point, because evidence is quite interesting how it breaks up. So in essence, in court, if you're under a prosecutor as person, everything the prosecutor is bringing forward is hearsay. And the way to obfuscate that would be, in relation to the prosecutor, would be to say, who is the man, male, female speaking here? I know not who he, she is. I insist the declarant be present under oath or affirmation. I'm here under full commercial liability and oath, where is the level playing field? Because they're not. Okay, so that's just a little bit of interesting data in relation to hearsay as far as evidence goes. Okay, so there's no specific order to these protocols, I might add, but they are very interesting if you look at it this way. Now, a lot of these definitions are not necessarily what is defined in a book. These are my definitions. Not in all cases, but in some cases, these are how I would define these terms. Okay? But some are, of course, taken from. But nevertheless, what I've tried to do is shorten them. Because basically, a lot of these definitions, if you look into legal stuff, they just go on and on and on. You don't need to. They define themselves. And of course, when you're putting anything together in written form, as long as you're defining your words, that's the law. No room for anybody else to adjudge what you might be saying because you're defining what you're saying. Okay? So you don't have to go in copious nonsense. So let's just look at the Bill of Rights, specifically Article 5. Because at the moment, these rights are coming under attack. So you've got the freedom to petition. So you have the freedom to write to anybody in the state. At all times. You have the right to protest. You have the right to assembly. So you can assemble anywhere on the street. They call it gathering in the legal, if you see the signs. So they're going against your rights in the Bill of Rights. Okay? If they're trying to tell you you can't protest and you can't assemble or gather. Okay? And you've also got the freedom of speech. Now, these are classed as trite law. And trite law defines as given laws to all of you. Okay? So that's the Bill of Rights. Those are the aspects of the Bill of Rights you may want to have a look at to get yourself so that you understand them as your rights, because it covers freedom to petition, protest, assembly, and of speech. Very important, because those are the issues that they are slamming down on with this bug garbage, okay, which again is administration law. So it's trite law, it's given law under England. Not Britain, not UK, England. So that's English realm, the English Bill of Rights. Fiduciary trustee. Fiduciary has to do something, and the trustee is commanded what it should do. Okay? So if you're going in there as man and settler and beneficiary for your trust, then you have put all on notice involved in whatever's going on in relation to that trust on notice that all others are fiduciary trustees. Okay? And you then want to know why you're not benefiting in whatever's going on in a court or between police, anybody. A settler or beneficiary in the trust, which is what they're aiming at on person. Once you've established that standing, then you want to be saying, well, where am I benefiting here? You're a trustee, where am I benefiting? Because they're not, they're trying to attack you. They're trying to rob you. Yeah? And make money out of you by sending you on whatever they can. Through the courts, to prison, yeah, on courses, etc. Fines. So they're trying to do business, so they're shifting you. Another important protocol that you want to be aware of. Now, there's three forms of English language. There is slang, there is formal English, and legal English. Now, contrary to what you may believe, you out there are speaking slang. That is the first language you learn, the first language you pick up, because you're picking that up from your mother and father, who also only speak slang. You need to understand that big time. And a lot of you are studying legal English because you're trying to fight in the legal system. But what you want to be understanding is formal English. Not English literature, that's pish. Formal English, because that's what the law is written in. All right? Now, ordain, the term ordain also means authorized. Okay? Established defines as written. Commerce is internal business. internal. Okay, so they get you on doing business. They're then operating commerce. They're doing business with you, and it's an internal administration law set of statutes. Okay, sovereign means master or law of the case and is decreed as follows. So if you're sovereign, you are the master, you are creating the law in relation to whatever case you are dealing in. Okay, so that's where you'd need to be looking at creating a statutory declaration of who you are, how people have to operate and deal with you, what you're not accepting, and what charges you want to make if they're breached. Okay, so that's a statutory declaration that leads you on to that. Citizen is a state-owned slave. So the state is the slave. So if you are a citizen, you're a slave of the slave. A sovereign citizen is a master slave. Okay? Can you see why you don't want to use them terms, and why these police numpties try and pull you in that, if they're pulling in the free man paradigm they've been taught to use if you're coming in with law. Okay, be aware of this stuff. Government is the servant. It is a slave of man. Present myself. You never represent, because you're representing yourself as person. So you are here present. You are presenting yourself man. Okay? Patronymic is gifted. It's an inheritance from the father. So if they ask for your surname and they're getting up to it, you just explain, I don't have a surname, I do have a patronymic. Would you like that? Now I have a little example of that very thing in action in a call I made to Lancashire Police Headquarters only the other day. A very interesting example of just that I will present either in this video if it doesn't get too long, or in another. Man, born on the land, of the land. You return your flesh and blood to the land. Land and man are the same word if we get biblical. Special. Now we've looked at peculiar. Well, special is just another term that can be used. I'd rather use special actually, because it's accepted. Special constable, special hearing, special this, special that. It's accepted and understood. Peculiar, maybe not so. So I would suggest special is the better, and not in the public or the private. Okay, so you're not in the public and you're also not in the private. Two sides of the same coin in Roman law, as we've already expressed on other videos. Yeah, so if you're going to use the term represent myself, it's a legal term and it's secondary, denoting person. So that's what you need to grasp. Person has. So what does a person have that a man doesn't? Well, a person has a date of birth, because it's birthed. It's a vessel, it's a trust, and it's birthed. Okay, a man is born. Yep. And a person also has an address. A person also has a bank account. A person also has a passport. And a person also has a license. This is why they use these questions to try and grab you in. And as I've said, I've got an example for you. The cocky little shits. Okay? That video will show you and cement into your mind that every single one of these bastards know exactly what they're doing, and they're happy to screw you to the floor. Okay? So they're happy to screw man, be that Englishman, to the floor to do business. Every single one of them that comes out of that police headquarters. Make no mistake about it. Because it got me very angry, did that. Conditional acceptance. So whatever it is they're trying to do, you would state, I conditionally accept upon your evidence of law you are enforcing. Not administration law. Law, biblical or English, okay? Depending on which jurisdiction you're playing in. What we wish to be so. And the common law is the mechanic that prevents dictatorship. This is why they've got to get rid of common law. And it's derived from the Bible, and they have to get rid of the biblical law. They have to get rid of man, because you want everybody on person to put you into the no-hide. Okay? That's the job of the secret societies, remember that. Statutory law. The law of special interests. It is written. Okay, so it's written law, administration law. And that is the dictatorship over the people, because you've become person. Okay? So there's a major distinction between common law and statutory law. Common law prevents the dictatorship, because it gives you the rights as man. Statutory law is all about person, takes you off man. You can then be dictated to. Okay? You can be enslaved. Jury. To decide on the value of the laws within a case. And as we have discussed earlier, as man, sovereign, you are the law. As person, the state is the law. Okay. Trial by jury. The jury is in control of the determinations, not the judge. And remember, a trial by jury, they have to be a jury of your peers. So in my case, it would have to be 12 men or women who understand all the distinctions in law that I currently do. Okay. That's your peer. They have to be on your level. A jury trial, different from a trial by jury. The judge is in control of the jury. Okay? Very important you understand that determination. So there's trial by jury and jury trial. Okay? Civil law is made to control the people by having them as person. On file, not on the record. Interesting. On the record, vocalized statement of truth. Okay, so I made it on the record on that day, 31st December, that I was man, and I was Sean, no surname. Okay, that's on the record. And I also did the same in the court. A court of record. It's on the record, and they're still playing person. Okay, that's fraud. Classified. Information not forthcoming. The Cabinet Office is the government headquarters. So maybe you might want to look at sending any letters you want to send out, not to Boris or individual MPs. Send it to the Cabinet Office, okay, and whoever's in charge of the Cabinet Office. Counter-Claimant. Now, very interesting. If somebody makes a claim against you, you're the defendant, or you're at a lesser jurisdiction. If you make a counter-claim, it puts you on a level playing field again, which is the original idea of a court of law. Level playing fields. Not as it is in Admiralty, different heights, boxes everywhere, different levels. It's not a tennis court. You're not on a level tennis court in the legal system, okay? So you want to be a counter-claimant. That's your position you want to be if you're going to court. Image and likeness, which is of a picture or photograph of you. So they'll say, is this you? You'll say, yeah. No, it's not. It's a piece of plastic, and it has an image or likeness of your flesh and blood. Very important. File on demand. You're instructing them to place the document into the case file. Okay. Fraud Act. Now, another one to be aware of, and that is especially Section 2 and Section 3. But they're all worthy of an appraisal by yourself. So Section 2 is false representation of information. And Section 3 is abuse of position. All these police officers are abusing the position as constables because they're acting contrary to the constables' protocols of law or principles of law. Okay. Trade is international dealing. If you get into law, etc., and legal, you'll start to understand trust law. You'll either see the term in res. Now, that refers to assets in the trust. Okay, so everything that's in your person, property, etc., is classed as in res. It's assets that they're classing as belonging to your trust. Not you, the man, the trust. In rem is moving against a thing or property. Ignorantia juris su non prejudicat jure. Ignorance of one's right does not prejudice the right. Okay? So they're using the tacit agreement, so basically saying you're ignorant of your rights and you're not using them. That's, well, this isn't acceptable according to Black's Law, page 873, 5th edition, 1979, okay? Individual, Black's ninth, existing as an indivisible entity, of or relating to a single person or thing as opposed to a group. So again, you don't want to be classed as an individual because it ties straight to person or thing, but not relating to a group, so it's standalone, but it's off man. Evidence for originating source of authority and jurisdiction. So in essence, as we discussed earlier, which crown are you serving? You could use that term, temple crown, monarchical crown, English crown. Okay, English crown, temple crown, two different. The bar is temple crown. Law, case law is the English crown. Okay, again, you need to be aware of this difference in evidence, and we will go through that in another video because it's quite lengthy. Of. Now, this is an interesting word you don't want to be using again. Defines as without. Yeah. Use terms such as upon and for. Okay. Court funds office is the court bank. Adult. Now, if we go back to biblical, is an adulterer and defines as one who is corrupt and would corrupt others. Okay? You look in a lot of this health and safety stuff, it's all based in adult. Alright? And if you go back to the beginning of this video where the Manchester H&S Council Executive are intruding on your workplace because they're claiming to be responsible for adults. So, adulterer. Right. The Human Rights Act 1998 is also another interesting thing you want to get aware of. Article 6 is the right to a fair trial. You're not getting a fair trial in a magistrate's, okay, in any way, shape or form. You've also got CPR 31.3, 31.6, rights to full disclosure. Again, they're in breach of that, in my case. And they've also the right of inspection of a disclosed document, which I haven't received. CPR Part 8 is a claim to compel them to do this. So those are some protocols that I would recommend that you get yourselves aware of in relation to how you're writing things and how you're communicating. And also, it gives you the ability to understand when they're using contrary against you. All right? So you can start to recognize it. And then once you can start to recognize it, you can flip and oppose it immediately with your language. And you're not, again, then falling trap and giving joinder. So there we go. Some interesting protocols. There are a few more, but maybe we'll do another video because there are quite lengthy definitions that go along with those other protocols. So with that, for Equinox, and as we head into now the exciting part of the year, I would say till the next time.